In the Trenches with Ryan Roxie.
You know, we're here with Conny Bloom right now talking about the new album, Upside Down, released this year. Let me ask you this. Whose friggin' idea was it to put the exclamation point instead of an I? And does that mess up your Spotify search when someone searches to go hear the new album?
Good question. I think it was my idea. I'm not sure, but the thing was that where the title came from was actually I found a Coca-Cola. What do you call it? The top of from the bottle.
Yeah, bottle cap.
Yeah, if it's the glass. If it's the glass one, there's usually a little message underneath, and it said upside down, and it was lying upside down on the table. And I just took a picture and I thought this is a really cool cover. But then, and then we expanded on that and came up with this other idea. But I think that's where it came from, that to play around with the upside down, not to have the title upside down. It would be like the Aerosmith album, Done with Mirrors, where it's all backward.
That was the most confusing album.
I know.
But it was probably confusing for them too, because that was sort of their comeback album when they were just dipping their toe into reforming. Do you remember that record?
I do remember, and I thought it was a cool cover, but I remember them saying, I think there was an interview with Tom Hamilton when he said it must be the most like stupid cover to make. I mean, it was a weird. I loved it. I thought it was really cool. But
I remember that album didn't it have also Aerosmith's version of "Let the Music Do the Talking," not Joe Perry's version, but actually a version of Steven Tyler singing it. And a lot of those songs on that album, I think, faded because they hadn't properly like finished the arrangements of all those songs. So a lot of those tunes that are on that album, if you listen to it, fade out because they just didn't come up with endings or like maybe a proper full arrangement, because obviously the album after that, which was Permanent Vacation, right? That was their step in, and obviously John Kolodner put his stamp on it. But didn't John Kolodner produce Done with Mirrors as well?
I don't remember that. But it sure was a big step up. I thought, when Permanent Vacation came, it was like that. It was perfect.
I know. But
anyway,
be honest.
Speaking of the title, it's like I did remember that discussion that I read, that they thought, oh, maybe it wasn't such a great idea. So we figured, okay, let's not write this upside down.
Let's not write upside down. But somebody put the idea of putting an exclamation point instead of the I.
I think I did, because I have something that would be upside down, but not everything.
You had to get your little Aerosmith in there somehow. I remember that. The thing I love about this show is that we have a live chat, folks. And if you are listening to us on the live stream, they will tell us if Done with Mirrors, Aerosmith, was produced by John Kolodner, because someone will go on the internet and figure it out right away. But I think it was. But then obviously Permanent Vacation came out, and then Pump came out. And my question to you is, because I'm always the older school guy, old Aerosmith, new Aerosmith, because there's certain bands that have that sort of break in their career, and Electric Boys is no different, to be honest, and I'll talk about that in a second. But first question, old Aerosmith or sort of the reinvented new Aerosmith?
I would have to say old Aerosmith, because I think, for me, rocks, especially rocks, but some of the other stuff as well, but it's such a classic, but it's difficult. It's a good question, but it's difficult to answer anyway, because I think what they did with Permanent Vacation and Pump when they came back was really, really good. Right. So it's like two different things, really.
All right. So then the next one is old AC/DC or new AC/DC?
It depends on what you mean, new AC/DC. Would that be Brian Johnson?
Yes, of course. Yeah, even though new AC/DC is like 30 years old at this point, 30, 40 years old. But Bon Scott or, Brian? Toss up?
I don't want to, I love them both. I think they're great. They're great in different ways. I mean, I just love how they came back, you know, after Bon Scott's death, and people obviously thought that this is going nowhere. It's impossible to replace him, and then they came back and did Back in Black.
Something even bigger, yeah. Something
yeah,
even bigger.
It's probably. I mean, it's the biggest selling rock album, right? I mean,
yeah. As far as commercial success, definitely something even bigger. But for me, Bon Scott, the lyrics of Bon Scott, he was always one of the best lyricists, of our time.
That I agree.
Okay.
That I agree with. I mean, that's some real street poetry there for you. Some really good.
But see, I have this question. Go ahead.
It's like, he goes, I got patches on my new blue jeans. Well, they used to be new when they used to be blue, when they used to be clean.
Holy shit. Are you just fucking spouting off Bon Scott lyrics? Nicely done.
But that's the only one I remember.
and you did a visual with it. I like that. Yeah. Sorry, I almost interrupted you with it. That's great. But I have this conversation, Conny, and it kind of goes back when I have it with European rockers or I have it with American rockers. Usually the American rockers always go with the older version of that band, but a lot of European rockers go with this new age. And the same could be said with Alice Cooper. And that's that's part of the reason, and we're going to get to that in just a little bit with going back to Get Forward, is that Alice Cooper was a huge influence for Electric Boys. And you actually said that perhaps if it wasn't for Alice Cooper, there might not be an Electric Boys band, no?
That's true, because when I was in school, when I was about 13 and 14 years old, I saw this long-haired guy who looked like a rock and roller, obviously, and we started talking at some point, and it turned out that he, just like I was a big Alice Cooper fan. So that's how we became friends. And so, yeah, in a way, if it wouldn't be for Alice, there wouldn't be Electric Boys. Maybe it would certainly be different, because it wouldn't be with the two of us.
And we are talking about the bassist, the current bassist, and been the bassist of Electric Boys, Andy Christel. So, what back in those days, was it the old Alice Cooper, or I would say new Alice Cooper in the Poison era, or was it the 70s old Alice Cooper?
This was the old. I mean, this was a long time ago. You got to remember. So, I mean, I grew up when I was 9 years old. I bought my first album. Like, there was all this music around me all the time, the Beatles and Little Richard and 50s rock and roll. But then the first album I bought for my own money was Killer, and I was only 9 years old. So I remember I got that, and I remember hearing School's Out and some other stuff around that era, which really changed everything. Because I mean, I love Beatles and all that, but this was something different. And also, I like the fact that it pissed my mom off when I showed her pictures of him hanging himself and chopping his head off.
Somehow, folks, if you're just tuning into In the Trenches, we slipped into a little going back to Get Forward without the animation. But don't worry, it's coming right up right now, because we are here with guitarist, lead singer of Electric Boys, Conny Bloom. We are talking about the new album, Upside Down. Of course, we had that covered. We'll bring it up again later on in the podcast. But you know what? Being that we slid right into it, let's see the animation for it. Let's go back to Get Forward. So this is the part of the podcast where we sort of go back and find out the inspirations of how you got started. And you kind of touched upon that as well, and wanted to obviously drop Alice Cooper's name in there, because he is a big part of not just your existence with Electric Boys. He's a big part of the reason why I'm able to actually make a living and see the world and actually end up here in Sweden with you. I'm Ryan Roxie, and I've taken all my years of experience of playing guitar, and I want to pass the torch of rock and roll on to you. Check out the System 12 Guitar Method.